So now that we have connected to the switch, let us see how we can actually now start configuring our server. Now, as we learned in the Server Plus book, there is a utility that comes with all server operating systems, and that utility is called Server Manager. And this allows you to do most of the configuration of your server from one location. So all the other stuff that I've already shown you during the Windows 10 and Windows 8 and A Plus and N Plus books about how to change computer names and how to configure IP addresses, you can still do by using the same utilities, but Server comes with Server Manager, which is a nice, easier tool for me to use to do all of these things. So to be able to open up Server Manager, right next on your Start button, you have a little Server Manager icon. So all we do is we click on it, and it will open up Server Manager. Okay. Once Server Manager is open, this now then gives us actually quite a lot of information in here. Here on the right, we can see we are at the moment connected to the dashboard. The dashboard shows me a quick overview of how my system is behaving. You know, all my little utilities that I have, any services that might be down, that's not running. I'm all green, which means everything is good with the server. It also allows us to add roles and features, add servers that we want to control, other servers in the network. We'll play around with these things in a little bit later on. For now, if we go back here again on the right-hand side and we click on Local Server, this will give me all the information about this server. So at the top, we have all of the properties. We have the computer name. Is the firewall turned on and off? Have I enabled remote management and remote desktop? Do I have NIC teaming? How's my IP addresses configured? Here on the left-hand side, we have all the updates, error reporting, time zone. It tells me that Windows is not activated because, hey, I haven't added the license. And at the bottom, it shows me the settings, the configuration. I'm running Windows Server 2012 R2 Standard. It's configured as a virtual machine. I'm running an i7 processor with 8 gigs of RAM and 40 gigs of hard drive space. If I scroll down a little bit though, it will then start showing me a bit more information. I can see all my events. This is my event viewer. So instead of having to open up Event Viewer, it displays the most recent event logs for me already. If I scroll down a little bit more, here we have all of the services that is installed on the server. And are they running? Are they stopped? So I can go through here without having to go to the services application. We then have the best practice analyzer. This is like a little tool that it can be used to scan your network and your computer for vulnerabilities. And it will show you anything on here that it finds to be a problem. Okay, at the moment it hasn't done a scan. I can start to scan and let it run in the background. And then we'll see if my computer is, according to Microsoft, nice and secure. I'm pretty sure it won't be. Hey? Anyway, while I scroll down a little bit more, we have here a performance monitoring tool. This is a constant monitoring tool that gives you real time about processors, memory, hard drives, all of that stuff. And lastly, we can see all the roles and features that has been installed on this server. So I can have a quick view of what exactly is installed on this server. Okay. Now I just want to concentrate for now on this top part, changing the configuration of the server, where the first thing we always have to do is change the computer name. So all we have to do is click on the little computer name, the little link, and it will take me straight to the window that will allow me to change my computer name. So we click on change, and we don't call it Win90 whatever anymore. We'll say this is Server 2012 R2, and I'm going to make this a domain controller a bit later on. So we call it, it's my DC for my network. We click on OK. This, of course, is going to ask us to restart the computer. Doesn't matter what operating system you run, you have to restart the computer for it to be able to change the computer name. Luckily with server, most of the other settings do not actually require a restart. Okay, it can normally happen just by applying it. So we'll log back in, and what you guys will see is that as soon as we log back in, Server Manager will actually automatically open up for us already. So we don't actually even have to open it up. Server Manager always opens up as soon as Server 2012 or Server 2019 or even Server 2008 starts itself up. So now if we go back to local server, we will now see that we have changed the computer name. Okay. The next most common thing that you'll have to change is make sure your firewall is turned on, that you have enabled remote management so you can send it remote commands, and most often or not you also want to enable remote desktop. This will allow us to use the remote desktop utilities to be able to connect to this computer, like TeamViewer or LogMeIn or Windows Remote Desktop Client, so that I can remotely connect to the server and actually manage it from my office instead of having to go into the server room. So we normally enable that as well. Okay, then normally the last thing that you want to actually change or set up is, of course, your IP address. Servers by default do not use DHCP, which you guys can see at the moment. It's an IP address that's been assigned by a DHCP server. Servers should have static IP addresses in your network. So we want to add a static IP address to this network. So we right click on the network card, we go to properties, we select IP version 4, and we click on properties. You guys know all of this, huh? And we can type in an IP address. So I'm going to give it the IP address of 192.168.0. I don't know, let's make it 150. Of course, you're going to try and give it an IP address that's not part of your network already, hey? That's not been assigned anywhere else. If I click on subnet mask, it will automatically fill that in for me. And I can then also type in my default gateway, which in my case will be my ADSL router, hey? So we can get out of the network. I also need to type in a DNS server address. For me, this will be the same address as this computer, because I am going to be installing a DNS server on this computer to show you guys how it's done. And we can add an alternative IP address. I like the 1.1.1.1. That's a nice easy IP address to remember. So we click on OK, we click on close, we close the window, and if we refresh the local server, we will then see that the IP address has now been added. So now that you guys can see after I've refreshed the manager, now you can see that yes, we are now running a static IP address. Okay. A couple of other things that you might want to do, specifically this IE enhanced security configuration. Because it's a server operating system, it doesn't come with Microsoft Edge as a browser. It actually comes with Internet Explorer. Internet Explorer have problems with newer websites. So I've found in the personal experience that by turning IE Enhanced Security off, it actually makes your browsing experience using IE a lot better. Okay, a lot more stable. It can connect to newer sites and things like that. Of course, you can just install another browser if you want. You can install Chrome or Firefox or whatever else you would like. Okay? So it's just personal experience that I've found to turn that off myself. So yeah, this is actually basically how you would go about configuring a server. The main things that you might have to change, specifically computer name, very important. Give the server a name that will tell you exactly what the server is doing. If it's a file server, give it file server 2012 R2. If it's a DNS server, put it in its name so that anybody that's just looking at the names can immediately recognize, oh, this is my file server, this is my DNS server, this is my domain controller. Okay. You also want to make sure your firewall is turned on. and that you have enabled remote management and remote desktop. And lastly, make sure that you've actually given it a static IP address. Everything else is normally optional. You might change it, you might not. It will, of course, depend on your environment, the office that you're in, the company that you work for. So that is something that you might have to choose on your own regards.